Hello!
Hello, and welcome to the Classic Pod with Alex Maxted.
And Johnny Whiting.
How are you doing, Johnny?
I'm great. We're on episode 3.
We're on episode 3. This is a monumental moment.
Where
for
has
us.
the time gone?
Where has the time gone, frankly?
I mean, at the point of recording this, 2 hasn't gone out yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So if that does really badly, you might never see this.
Exactly.
But here we are.
Here we are, still trying.
Still going.
Still putting ourselves out there.
Yeah, we've learned a lot, I think, just doing the first 2 episodes. I mean, we do all this ourselves, the filming, the lighting, the editing, and we've learned a lot.
We've definitely learnt a lot, such as that the camera... the camera did not work.
Any keen-eyed viewers of the VOD will notice that...
The VOD.
It's called the VOD. Shut up. I'm cutting that. Any keen viewers of the video will notice that the last half is just Alex because our camera just decided to not film me. I don't know if that's a problem with the camera or me.
I think, the camera just gave up.
Don't we all? I mean, and it was also completely out of focus, which we only noticed after we downloaded 2 episodes worth. But we learn.
We learn, and the plants outside were in perfect focus.
They looked lovely.
They looked beautiful. Yes, we live and we learn. It was
So here we are, hopefully in crisp HD, high definition.
Mr. DeMille, ready for our close-up.
We are ready for our close-up.
Exactly.
Don't zoom in any further, please.
Please, yes. We're fine.
Anyway, Alex, what are we talking about today?
So today, we thought that we would talk a little bit about new music.
Yes.
New music, programming new music, where it is, and maybe a little bit about the disparity of new music and other kind of new art forms in the wider arts.
Yeah, because I think when people say, we mentioned this last time again, the word classical music, people automatically think of the 18th century, etc. Yeah. But when you say modern music, they sort of scowl and think of sort of horrible, clashy atonality.
Absolutely,
people screaming, people sort of snapping twigs, or sort of yelling into trumpets.
I think there is a sense, definitely, I've heard this said, that, somebody goes to something really experimental and they say afterwards, like, oh, I've wasted my money. Oh, why did I go?
But that's
why
the word.
Did I go?
I think the word experimental doesn't help.
That is very true. New doesn't necessarily mean experimental.
You wouldn't like to go to the doctors and, by the way, this is experimental. That wouldn't be nice. You'd be a bit unfortunate.
I love that, yeah.
So... But it's only sort of happened. Well, this is the funny thing is that when you ask someone, give me an example of a modern music or modern composer, they'll usually go to like the likes of Schoenberg. Or Berg.
Definitely.
That's sort of the beginning of not beginning of atonality, the beginning of the 12-tone system.
Yeah.
But that's fully almost over 100 years old.
I was going to say it's tired, it's done, it's classical. Like
that's classical.
Yeah, it really is.
At Schoenberg's time, that would have been like saying sort of Schumann.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy, but that's so true.
That's what's when you think about the difference in time. But now today, people would hear Schoenberg in a concert and go, "Oh, this is some modern music. This is some new stuff."
Absolutely.
And so, why is that?
There's a story I remember about Schoenberg, which is that I always liked reading everything that he wrote because he was such an interesting character. And there was something that he said, or there was a kind of attitude that he had that was, he was making music like that because he had to. But it was not necessarily the kind of music that he wanted to write. And I think this is parroting Verdi, but he used to say, oh, I want to go and like hear somebody whistling one of my tunes down the road or hear somebody humming my music. And it was like, well, obviously that's not going to happen unless you're a very gifted whistler or hummer. Frankly, Piero Lunaire down the street. Beautiful. Gosh, well, oh, wow, Johnny.
Tone number 3.
That one of mine.
But it's funny you say that because if you listen to Schoenberg's music before he went 12-tone and atonal, so like Verklärte Nacht, beautiful. He had
stunning,
this such a
like
lovely,
late romantic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, also, rather surprisingly, Schoenberg, he was a teacher. He was a music teacher, and he wrote loads of books on sort of harmony, sort of traditional Western harmony, and was very good at that. So it was very much that really is an experiment. He was just thinking, okay, what if all these notes don't have hierarchies? What
Yeah.
if, the tonic, the main key of the piece isn't the most important? Let's just, throw it all apart and see what happens.
And do you think that that was necessary, that somebody had to experiment like that in order to open up music in a new direction? Do you see where he was coming from, or do you think that maybe that attitude is not very helpful?
No, I'm going to say, I think it had to happen. I mean, if you look at sort of where music was going up until that point, so if you look at sort of late Wagner, Liszt, and then sort of Richard Strauss, you start to see that tonality anyway was sort of starting to crack and fall apart. They were just kept pushing and pushing. And this was just like the extreme. It's like, how about these key signatures, whatever, doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Everything you knew about how you write music and format chords and harmonies, that's all wrong, or that's ignore all that.
Yeah.
I think it had to go really far. I like to think of it a bit like, in like fashion in sort of runways, you have really weird stuff. You're like, oh, well, I'd never wear that. But you have to go really far to then for that to then trickle down into what people
that's a
wear.
really interesting way of putting it.
You sort
I think
of push and see the extremes, and people are still pushing to even further. They're trying to find as much as they can, and I think that's now where the art is. It's not in that's a nice tune, or that's a nice harmony, that's whatever. It's just you've got to sort of reframe your mind thinking, you can't listen to it in the same way. But we hear atonality all the time.
We do hear atonality all the time. It's in our lives. Just full stop.
This morning.
Talking to each other is atonal.
It was like in any sort of film music, like a chase sequence. Or if you listen to, I'm going to use an operatic example. When Salome kisses the head of John the Baptist, there's this like horrible chord. And how else do you show something so
revolting,
disgusting other than through atonality and dissonance like that?
My mind also went to kind of horror films, sound effects, and screeching violins.
It's like when people listen to The Rite of Spring, they think this sounds like this sounds chase music, this sounds like horror film music.
Absolutely.
Music didn't sound like that before then. What would we have, if the chase sequences were just sort of minor chords, chung, 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 you don't get that. And I think life is not all tonal.
It's true, life is not all tonal. And I was thinking as well about that kind of time. So, Schoenberg went atonal around like 1910-ish, right?
1910, 12, something like that.
And then he went 12-tone, which was the kind of new system that he had about a kind of notation and a tonality. It's not a kind of tonality because it's harmony, and it's a complicated thing to talk about, dodecaphony. So should we just glide over that? Yes, but then also at the same time as like operetta, Puccini operas, and there's still a real sense of new music that's coming out that's still kind of popular. And a lot of the music that people are thinking of or know or is in their lives and they're listening to, and that is classical. And I think that we used to talk about this a little bit at uni, that the kind of first time that this really tails off and classical kind of becomes this monument, this kind of immovable artifact, is they called it the Elvis Darmstadt. And then there's the Problem Conundrum, I think was the one that was in my head. And it was when kind of Elvis was releasing new music, and the Darmstadt school were kind of composing new works.
Very hardcore, atonal stuff,
completely. And that was the kind of moment at which they diverted to return. And even like jazz singers just before, they were still, a lot of jazz standards are like take from classical.
They come out the musical theatre.
Exactly, musical theatre and opera and classical music.
It's funny that sort of continues today, is that pop music is just sort of so different to even classical music that's written today. And that distinction, there's never been a distinction so wide before. I was actually thinking about this. if you lived in the 18th century, and this is down to how music today is so accessible. We can listen to, on Spotify, whatever, you can listen to anything you want, within seconds. No, if you lived in the 18th century, firstly, if you weren't rich enough, you weren't going to hear any music. You might hear stuff at church, or you'll hear stuff in the local tavern.
Yes.
Like folk-style music. You're not going to hear operas, string quartets, symphonies, because those were in the rich people's houses. Only sort of late 18th century in the UK did they start having public concerts, but those were for the middle classes. So again, you still have to have money to hear these things.
It's very true. But then people, by the time you get to the Victorian times, people felt bombarded by music and sounds, and like the organ grinder outside, people walking down the road and singing, and
people have pianos in their houses as well. They've become more common.
It's true, and different kinds of pianos, rather than But I watched a film recently, and it's called Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not.
And it is 18th century, and in it, one of the characters says this. She says she's never heard an orchestra, she's never heard music, and they have a kind of spinet in the house. And one of them the other one has heard music, and she's trying to recreate the sound of Vivaldi's Summer. And in the end, she has to go through with her arranged marriage, and she goes to the concert, and you see the kind of experience of her listening to music for the first time. And it was very emotional. Like, it was must have been so overwhelming. And we think of, these people as being quite, when you hear people listening to Handel operas and, Mozart operas and fainting and kind of falling out of their chair with excitement, it was a sound they'd never heard.
Yeah.
And also there's later on, that was also some of the loudest sounds they'd ever heard as well. When the trains came into kind of production, more in the 19th century, that then became the loudest sound that they'd heard. We hear planes and things like that, things that are incredibly loud.
Amplified music and stuff now.
But they didn't. They'd never heard any of that, and so it was all very shocking.
That's what I was also thinking, is that now we can say I've got a favourite symphony, I've got a favourite string quartet. You would have been very unlikely to have heard the same piece twice.
Yes,
then, unless you worked in an orchestra. In those times, you could not have said, "Oh, I love this symphony. I've heard it multiple times," because it wasn't played multiple times. Or unless
you could play yourself and you had the sheet music and you could make something out of that.
But it's funny how they were constantly having composers write new music for new occasions. I mean, Bach was writing new cantatas, his whole life.
Absolutely, and churning them out.
It was just a matter. Why didn't they just use an old one? There was something about sort of always just having new music and that sort of being part of just the musical landscape, and having, for an event, you have new music written for it. That's just what happened. But that doesn't happen anymore.
But what's really funny, that did make me think of something, which is that Bach, when he was writing music, he was writing these cantatas, he was writing whatever he was writing at the time.
Yeah.
The reach of that was limited. Mm-hmm. Whereas now, even if it's funny, because in our heads now, somebody like Bach is such an incredibly famous person in classical music. Even if you're a very new artist who releases something on Spotify, your reach is way bigger than Bach's would have been. Yeah, I mean, that's just way bigger.
That's the sort of the magic of the internet. Essentially, we're just connected.
True.
But I mean, I know there's lots of things nowadays about sort of social media and how that's negative effects and all that. But the fact that people can just listen to anything they want, is amazing.
It's powerful, for sure.
That's it's a good a time as ever to start listening to classical music.
But guys,
it's also please. Although to be fair, I think if you're here, you probably already do. But also, it makes it much easier to try and listen to new music.
It is true. But where do you start?
But that's the thing, is that it's quite hard to. I mean, you don't hear about, if you don't know about people, you're not going to look them up. And I know that orchestras and concert promoters try and do the sort of, new piece of music and something else older to try and get people in.
Yeah, definitely. We spoke about that a little bit before, and it's you program the new piece first so that people come in.
And then they leave after the interval.
Well, no, what I was going to ask was whether you felt that this all comes back to the marketing of classical music, and people don't engage with kind of new music partially because of how classical music is perceived in culture. But I wonder whether this does come back to the way that classical music is marketed, which we've spoken about a little bit before, the word classical, and perhaps people feel that what composers are doing now with music is slightly at odds with this idea of something being classical.
Yes, I think they already have a sort of preset idea what it's going to sound like. And I think, again, because, we're so used to the canon, we're so used to Mozart, we're so used to Bach, keep coming up in concerts, people are just sort of comfortable with that. And I think there is a skill in listening to new music, and when I mean new music, I also just mean music you haven't heard before, but also just listening to music, that is modern or doesn't have that same sort of language, that same sort of sound world. I know it sounds so sort of lofty, but if you're not used to it, it can take a little while to get into it.
Yeah, there's a period of adjustment, absolutely. And I do think as well, if you are composing music today, you have a music education, probably you've been listening to music all your life, you're immersed in other new music and you're seeing what other people are doing, and in many ways you're reacting to that. One of the things that I always used to like to do, and if you are interested in new music and hearing what people are doing today, is going to things like the Panufnik workshops at Barbican, and you can hear it's a series of talented composers who are there, and you get to hear their works, which I always think is fascinating to hear whether there are any threads in what's happening, but also people's individual voices. Often the composers will speak a little bit about their music and what inspired it. And I think if you're interested in discovering new music and don't know where to start, that's quite a nice way of getting into it.
What you said about, I love when you can, that's one thing when they're alive, the composers, when they're like there, I think you really feel that sense of their voice, them in it.
Which is so important.
We sort of make up what we think what Beethoven was like or what Vivaldi was like. But when the composer is standing there, I think you can make it feels a lot more intimate, or a lot more sort of the connection.
It's very special as well, doesn't it? That the composer is right there with you. Sometimes I try and work out in the audience who the composer is. Somebody with a pained expression. I
always find. So I was talking about this as a composer myself. I'm not gonna say I hate watching my pieces, but I'm really nervous. When I'm watching something of mine that's being performed, probably more nervous than the people actually performing it. But it's because it's the first time it's being heard by other people. You sort of get locked in this world of your own when you're writing something, and the only person that's sort of judging it is me. And so suddenly it's like released to everyone else, and a piece will never sound like you have heard it. You as in the composer.
That's really fascinating.
It will never sound like that. I mean, even if you play it yourself, I guarantee it will never sound like you want it to.
But do you think that that's part of the joy of
that
writing?
Is the joy,
exactly. And sometimes it can go in a way that you think, oh, wow.
Yeah, and the audiences don't know what a piece of music was meant to sound like. They don't have that basis. They are hearing it all new for the first time. And as you said, it's also down to the performers. I always like to say that a piece is sometimes like sort of 30% composer, 70% performer. Because, I mean, I know a lot of composers that actually are quite sort of controlling of, to the smallest detail, like this is too, like a half short staccato, or
you can often tell from reading the score.
Yeah, if there's too much there. If you're sort of squinting to read it, there's too much information. Whereas I'm sort of the complete opposite, and it's sort of very much do what you want. Because you're the one up there singing it, playing it, whatever. You need to be comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable, the music won't work. It doesn't work like that. You can tell when someone's not comfortable. You make it yours as well.
I bet there's a really inspiring video I saw on Reels, and it was one of Ravel's students. She was playing Jeux d'eau, which is the kind of Ravel piece about a fountain. It's like a god
Yes.
of water. It's very virtuosic, lots of notes. And it begins with this quite calm moment before everything goes wilder. But it's this kind of arpeggiatic writing with chords in the left hand. And Ravel was playing it to her, and then he was like, I always found this bit the most difficult in the piece. And she said, well, shouldn't it sound like this? And she just sat down and played it with a different phrasing. And he said, wait, yes, that is actually how it should be. And he actually hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
And it made him think about the piece in a new way. And he thought, wow, that is exactly more what I had in my head than I was doing in my hands. And I think also, because a lot of composers as well, this is, I'm interested to know your perspective as somebody who is a musician as well, but you write for instruments that you don't play.
Yes.
That must be a whole other element to what you're saying as well, which is...
That's fully it when it comes to the piano, because
Yeah.
I can play the piano, but I can't play the pieces I write. So
Who can? I'm joking.
who can listen to them? I can play it, but I can't play them to the extent I, would be able to perform them.
Yes.
I'm probably closer to actually being able to sing them than I could play the songs.
Yeah.
So I usually send them to pianists, and a lot of the time it's very much I see what you're doing, but if you maybe just like put this in that hand and put this in that hand,
I see.
it
So
works
it's more about
better.
the kind of formatting in that way.
But a lot of the time they say sort of like, yeah, this is fine. But I think, I when I'm writing for voices, I always sort of write for my voice and then just move it afterwards, which is not always good. I've had people saying, this is very high or this is very low. It's like, well, I was not writing it for you.
It's like your Google search history is like soprano range,
soprano range,
mezzo range.
Oh no, I love writing. The best bit about writing for individuals, especially when it comes to singers, is that you write for them as their voice. If you know them, or they've got a really nice sort of lower range, or they can really hit this note. This is their note.
Yes.
This is like that F sharp.
Yeah,
that's a good
absolutely.
F sharp.
Yeah.
And so you have it all the time.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. That's one of my favourite sort of way of
So
collaborating.
actually, writing something for someone.
Yes, that's the way. And it's also why I always like writing for voices.
Yeah.
I'm actually writing a set of saxophone pieces at the moment. A friend was commissioned or asked to be written. And I sort of sat there and I thought, I've not written a piece of music without words in a long time. What's happening? How do I know where to start?
Well, we were reminiscing, weren't we, earlier about what, like, New Music Club or whatever it was called.
New Music Society.
New Music Society, sorry.
We're a
New Music Society and Modern Music Society, two very separate societies.
Oh, yes.
Or was it Modern Music Society?
It was the Modern Music Society, you cretin.
Sorry. Oh, wow. Thank you.
I shouldn't have called you.
That was beautiful. Thank you. We're keeping that in. This is Johnny Whiting.
This is the real Johnny
But I
Whiting.
remember that, like, the people who were studying composition would, like, have their pieces played in Modern Music Society. I remember playing one of Sean's. I don't think I ever played one of yours. I don't think so.
No, you didn't.
I remember the one, the Contrapunctus, was it called?
Oh, please.
That was...
There's a bit, that's on YouTube
that's
somewhere.
on YouTube. Everyone find it. I really hope Sean's isn't, because I remember when we played it, it went so wrong. And I did feel bad for him, I remember, because the piece was great. And
I think this is the problem.
I think I was fine.
Where did the problem lie then?
Yeah. That's another episode.
This is why I'm nervous in concerts.
Did you see me gripping the side? So I'm like, oh,
And
I don't know.
we're going to play that now. Here it is.
Yes, here's the music.
I think that's the other thing. Well, no, that society thing was good fun because it were just like, send us your scores, we'll find people to play it. And I've always found that performers are always excited by new pieces.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think obviously especially if you're sort of earlier in your career, I think it looks good that you're also doing new music.
Yeah.
Which I'm really happy that that's something that is expected, or that's what we see.
And I mean, if you go to conservatoire, you will be expected in your recital to have a mixed program, which will mean, I mean, it's got to be something at least 20th century. At least. Come on.
I can't remember
but it should be something new, or it should be something quite modern. that pushes the
I
boundaries.
was at the Ferrier Awards, which is the it's
the
a singing awards, and I'm sure their thing says it has to be something written in the last 20 years or 30 years or
That
something
makes
like
sense.
that, which is, I think, it's important.
Ballet compositions as well. They do.
Yeah.
They make you do a new variation as well.
I think if you can't sing the new stuff, then you shouldn't be singing the old stuff.
If you don't like me at my best,
You don't know, I'm my oldest.
yeah, no. If you don't like me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
Exactly. I mean, another experience I find quite funny is that when a piece is difficult and the composer's dead, it's they're so innovative. I love the way that I have to break my fingers to play this.
Yeah.
But as soon as that composer's alive, it's like you
this
can't
is
write for the
unplayable.
violin. You play the violin. You can't write for it. That was me.
That was you.
I wrote. It was just some incidental music to St. Joan, great play. And the violin is like, you've made me do an octave jump from the low B to a middle B, and I was like, oh yeah, that's actually horrible. And I just felt like I could just sort of sink into the ground. Like, yes,
no.
I'm also a violinist, and I just didn't think of that.
You've got to whisper, I'm actually a violinist myself.
Need to do that.
Sorry.
The most embarrassing thing. This is why I don't play my own pieces. Getting your own pieces wrong, everyone looks at you like, if you can't play them, no one can.
Do you mean, okay, but could you not style it because it's your own piece?
There's like a little
That's
bit
how
of
it's meant to
jazz.
be.
Bit of jazz. It's like,
I just improvise there.
yeah, I mean, it's a bit funny after I finish the
philosophy.
piece, I then write in the bits I do wrong.
Yeah, that's cool.
Intentional.
Yeah, do you ever, There are certain times when you approach an older score and you see a notation or something and you willfully go against it. Or maybe it's...
That's just you.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that
That's
just me?
you.
But certainly as well, you can get editions by famous people. And
Yes.
I have a Schnabel Beethoven. And
You should
so
see a
much of
doctor
it is-
about that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly.
That was not good. That's not good. That wasn't good.
Good, that's the second time you brought up the music and medicine.
That's a future
hi,
episode.
Experimental,
Future
surgery. But should we loop a little bit more back into new music slightly? I feel like I keep kind of dragging us back into.
No, you keep pushing us astray. I'm a lost sheep in
You're
this
a lost
podcast.
sheep. I'm a helpless little kitten up a tree. Yeah, Misty.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. What I find is that of all the arts,
Yeah.
I feel like for some reason modern music struggles the most with its image.
Yeah.
Because I'm comparing it to sort of avant-garde art or modern art, which I know people will still go and laugh at sort of, some bowls floating in a lake or, sort of sacks hanging from a ceiling.
Yes.
But, I mean, if you go past the Tate Modern, which is just sort of down the road, full. I mean, it's free to get in.
It's true.
But it's always full.
Yeah.
And for some reason, art. Maybe it's because it can create more of a reaction.
I also think that one of the things about art is the way that it's consumed. I mean, if you're looking at a piece of visual art for more than 10 minutes, that's a long time.
That is a very long
But
time.
for a new piece, a new opera, you might be there for more than 2 hours listening to that music. And I think that scares people and that makes people, want to kind of move away. And also, there is a different feeling of going to an art gallery, and with a concert, you might sit in the dark for a long period of time. You're focusing solely on this thing. You have to really engage with it. Whereas if you go into a gallery, you see often a lot of different pieces and you think, oh, good, lots of different things for me to focus on. You read the kind of little piece that's written about what you're going to. There might be a film. It's all sorts of mixed media things that apply to all of the senses.
Yes.
And I think a lot with classical concerts, they are trying to do this a little bit as kind of mixed sensory.
Yes, they sometimes have sort of light shows or that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Or, something with kind of visual art as well. Purists in classical music hate that, though, don't they?
They hate everything.
Yeah. The purists.
They hate everything.
Puritans.
And I hate them.
Do you? Oh.
Can't be bothered with that.
Yeah.
Purists. When have purists ever been liked?
I'm really trying to think
of
an
history
example.
and think of when a purist has had I think that purist has got a point.
Yeah.
So, let's start mixing the arts up.
Let's start mixing them up. And I do wonder as well whether maybe this is something that's because it's sort of a newer thing, people are less less likely to like it, but soon it will be something that's quite
Yeah.
common of new compositions.
It's like those like sort of old churches that you go and like lay down and there's like light shows.
Yeah,
and
or
it's like an
something that's
experience.
in a kind of a space like a church where they have sculpture.
Yeah.
And you can kind of move around. I really like the idea of a classical concert where you can move around. I think that would be because I think that can feel quite trapping to people genuinely. Going to a concert and sitting there and thinking, oh, there's no way out. I'm in the middle of this row. It's quite claustrophobic.
It is actually. This is quite interesting. In I recently saw a production of Tamerlano, a Handel opera. Tamerlano. Yeah, it was set in the deep south.
I wish.
And it was a brilliant production. But in the beginning of I reviewed it. I spoke about how audiences today sit in the dark room and quiet, whereas back in the day, the theatres were fully lit. You'd have been chatting,
absolutely,
drinking, playing cards, and maybe you listened to when your favourite singer was on stage. So it didn't matter that because a lot of Handel operas are quite slow paced because you weren't paying attention all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a friend of mine sort of messaged me about this. He's like, I'd love to do that again. I'd like to have a concert that's or an opera where we now do it as they did in the 18th century.
I would love that, like a kind of historically accurate audience experience. Because we talk all the time about historically informed performance, HIP.
You need to see a doctor about that.
Oh my God. Yeah, I walk right into that one.
Clinic, that one.
Yeah, yikes. But I think that is a really cool initiative. But I also, historically informed performance is something that the way we understand it today is not going to be the same way that we understand it. We think of it, we are tempted to be purists about it, frankly. Well, Johnny, I'm actually slightly looking at you.
Well, I must say,
your pedal down.
I must say, I am a whore when it comes to the HIP.
Yeah, you do like it.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, it must be said. I love period performance.
Yeah.
A period performance is
beautiful, like a period instrument ensemble, also in the original pitch.
Yeah, the gut strings, the natural horns.
Oh yeah,
tasty,
beautiful. But
an audience that's like, but I think it'd be a bit hard to get an audience. Everyone have to be on board, but also you'd feel the first one someone have to talk.
Should we trial it? Should we trial it in like a kind of Esterhazy court setting?
All dressed up.
Yeah, all dressed up. But I think that that way we can I think we know enough people who can just be like us and our friends, and then if it really works and people love it, maybe we drop in a few new people.
Don't you think the performers would be a bit put off?
Well, maybe performers aren't as hardcore as they used to be, frankly.
Oh my God.
Sorry. But also, I think so many performers, when you're starting out performing, you have to do so many things. You accompany weddings, you can play in all sorts of environments.
I'd say some of the singers have done cabaret style where people already sit drinking and eating.
Yeah.
So it does sort of still exist, but
there are, with performing, I remember I used to, before I did my diploma, when I was at, just in sixth form, I remembered that there was this clock ticking, and it was oh God, what's it? The Telltale Heart.
Oh yes, Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, Poe. And I just became obsessed with the clock ticking, and I couldn't play anything not in that metronome marking. And I was like, "Can you turn off the clock?" It was a real moment. I remember that, and that was an example of me being very lily-livered, not being able to focus with a clock in the background. And I've been to performances as well where the hearing aid's going off and the performer's been like, "Can somebody sort this out?"
Oh God, that's
which
not
I do
good.
feel a bit bad as well.
I mean, it's not their fault.
But it is a really shrill sound.
It is.
Yeah. Maybe there's going to be a new piece written that incorporates.
Is there not?
I'm looking at you.
Is there not a Janacek piece or something? I might have just made that up.
Maybe
there's a composer that went deaf but had tinnitus.
Yeah.
And there's a piece of music where it's playing, and then there's just a violin playing a very high harmonic note, and it just fades. Everything fades out until it's just this violin. I'm sure that exists.
Yeah.
So I'd write it if it didn't exist.
And I do think that people do express their lived experiences in music, and I think that's a cool way of doing it. And with Beethoven as well, they say that last sonata, the Opus 111.
Is that the one with the jazz?
With the jazz, yes.
Yeah, the swung. Swung rhythms.
But it's all in the two extreme registers, which are the registers you couldn't hear. And so he wrote it in the registers that he couldn't hear. And in the end of the arietta, it is very much like an apotheosis. It's like going to heaven.
Yes.
And that was kind of, yes, in the new life, he would be greeted with his own music.
Oh, yes.
Very, like,
he thought highly
going
of
into
himself.
romantic mush territory here. But
again, that links back to why it's good to have alive people, because you're getting that connection.
this is why it's good to have alive people, full stop. Not just composers, just people.
Anyone
living.
alive, it usually works.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, I mean, again, it's having that link to the composer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also want to say, I was just thinking about, again, like how modern, we talk about the other modern art forms. I think even modern dance and modern theatre, I mean, theatre has obviously gone very avant-garde and abstract, but it's you don't see that very often, really. Not on the big stages.
I sort of think as well with theatre they've gone another way, which is that it's almost not so... It's not that abstract. I think, like we were saying before about acting, it would be weirder to see somebody perform in that kind of more old-fashioned declamatory way. I actually think that would be more absurd than trying to make something very realistic, and that being the kind of impetus of performing.
But even the writing itself, like, you're almost always going to have a narrative. It's never just going to be actors just saying random words. Although shows like that do exist. You know, Lemons, Lemons, Lemons.
No, I haven't seen Lemons.
I think it does. It does actually have a plot.
It's hard to say.
But I think there's a musical and opera of it as well. One came first, can't remember. But it's about this sort of couple, and then they slowly just keep saying the word lemons until that's all they can say.
I have heard of this. Yes.
So I guess that is abstract in its own way. But actually, I actually
love that.
It's great. This is what's really fun about music, is that music was abstract centuries before other art forms.
Absolutely.
Which is crazy when you think about it.
We started
it. It was us. Like a symphony, it's not about anything.
No, it's true.
A string quartet, it's not about anything.
It's true. What do they call it? What's that?
Abstract.
Absolute. No, there's like a word.
Oh, absolute music.
Absolute music.
Purist music.
Yeah, absolute.
Whereas paintings have always been of things.
Depictive.
Novels have been about things.
Well, actually, this was something that I was going to talk about as well, which is you mentioned kind of modern art.
Yeah.
And I was going to say about kind of new works that are written, like new books that are written.
Yeah.
And there's a similar kind of term in like writing, that there's this umbrella of literary fiction, literary, and it reminds me a little bit of the term classical, because what does it mean?
I see.
Who decides? And often things are grouped into... I am actually, as you know, a nepo baby in the writing world. My mum is a crime writer. And
she's just a writer that does crime.
Yes, yeah, exactly. She's a criminal and a writer. She's criminally good. But... keep going. So, like, obviously, if you are writing, often the first thing that your agent or your editor will say to you is they will group it into something. Is what you're doing historical fiction? Is what you're doing crime fiction? And also sometimes they will say, how can you make it more that? Because how can we market it?
Marketing.
And then how do we do this? And what is it? Is it this? Is it that? Is it the other? But yeah, it's a very different world, because, I mean, in writing, people obviously are writing things with like a clear narrative, and, you know, it's digestible because it's words that we understand, and it's kind of a world that's familiar to us. Even I think in literary fiction and things that are quite experimental in that way. I don't know. It's and I guess that's another part of that is because of the way that we consume writing. We're sitting down in our rooms, in our comfortable.
Yes, true.
You're more likely to kind of.
There's also the thing about your senses, your visual. If I showed you an elephant, you can go, that's an elephant. Whereas if you heard an elephant or smelt an elephant, you wouldn't probably be able to immediately say that's an elephant.
I think I'm in a fever dream. Are you talking about smelling elephants?
I'm talking about like so your.
I'm sorry. Did anyone else not understand anything?
I don't understand anything. This is why we've got this layout. I'm the psychiatrist, and you're here. We're just, oh God, not the set. We're just filming your sessions.
The wall just
We're
falls down.
with the sugar walls, the set.
Yeah.
No, you can, when you see something, you can tell me immediately what it is. But when you hear something...
Oh, I understand. Sorry, I think I just
vague.
wasn't listening to you. Yes, no, I do understand. I understand, yeah. And so, like, if you were in a dark room and you smelt something, you wouldn't go, oh, elephant.
Yeah.
Yeah, understood.
Or maybe if you... It depends if it did a sort of particularly elephant-y noise.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
if you heard it like walking, you wouldn't know it was an
If you
elephant.
heard... ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba-ba-ba,
Well, it links me to this. That was good, actually. Shut up. It links me to this really
Yeah.
nicely because music being fundamentally vague,
Yes.
that's great in a way that it's able to portray emotions and feelings that you can't verbalize.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing why I was linking it to the book, because if you say the word elephant, you know it, you can immediately think of an elephant.
Yes. It's just, we're back on elephants. I don't know
Sorry,
what's happening.
this is the Elephant Podcast. So I was going to say, it's like, while words and images can be a lot more... Stop laughing, I'm trying to explain.
Words and images
can be
can
very,
be much
like,
more-
I know exactly what that is.
Yes.
But that is not the same with music. Or sound, to be
Yes.
fair.
And I think it's quite hard, like, writers do try and make that. I mean, like, if you think of the futurists and what they did with writing and poetry, and it's even rendered in people like Virginia Woolf.
Yes.
But Gertrude Stein, I'm also thinking as well of a writer who kind of tries to deconstruct language in that way that other senses might be more kind of
Yeah.
deconstructed. More of like a sensory experience.
But I think it's that vagueness of music, which is why, again, sort of marketability through time, through history, they've always tried to attach like a word to it. So think of like the Haydn symphonies. He wrote 104 of them, but there's the London, there's the Oxford, there's the Surprise, there's the Sunrise,
The hen, right?
Chickie, the hen.
Chicken, yeah.
A lot of those times have got.
Coq.
This is a family podcast.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Moving on. Swiftly.
And the Mozart Jupiter Symphony. Why is it called Jupiter? No, it was no reason. It's just the editors put it on.
Yeah, Pathetique Sonata.
Yeah.
That's another one. Moonlight,
Yeah.
Pathetique, Hammerklavier.
And I would.
Adieu.
I have not got the data on this, but
Yeah.
I would bet that those are the most performed, most listened to.
Absolutely.
partially-
Tempest as well, sorry.
And Tempest Sonata. But especially with the Haydns, I bet the ones with numbers, the ones with names.
Definitely, because they're easier to... they're kind of easier to sort out in your mind.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's easier to remember that than an opus number.
I can remember. Oh yes, the Military Symphony by
Yeah.
Haydn, rather than Haydn Symphony 101 or 62.
Yeah.
And I think, to people that aren't necessarily musical, that's like, oh, I can now think of that. It's why sort of programmatic music is so... People like it, because
Yeah,
it gives them
absolutely.
something else to sort of hold on to. It's like those... They're immensely popular. Like the Albert Hall, we watch like a film and the orchestra's there playing the music as well.
Yeah,
And I think, and a lot of people who wouldn't normally go to sort of normal concerts, we say,
Yeah, of course.
or traditional concerts, would go to that because suddenly they've got a visual sort of element that sort of
Absolutely,
adds it all up
and
for
an
them.
element of familiarity as well. You know, you
Yeah,
might
they know Harry
spend more
Potter.
money on going to something when you know you'll enjoy the film.
It's also why the
the-
planets are so popular as well.
Absolutely, there's always a planet like whirling around, both
Wise
in terms
words.
of life and in terms of the musical.
There's always a planet.
zeitgeist. There's always a planet somewhere. Planets is a super popular one, and Vivaldi Four Seasons as well, of course, classic.
Programmatic.
Very programmatic. Part of the joy of that is the sense of kind of the storm in summer, or the kind of everything frozen over in winter.
The dog
And
barking.
the kind of the dance in autumn, and these things that are rendered in music, which was very experimental. And
Yes.
I remember
Yes.
like we did La Fanciulla del West as one of the pieces by Puccini in our opera module, and it was meant to be so experimental that in Minnie's aria she's singing about like something like a game they used to play with a penny, and like the penny drops and like you hear it in the orchestra and how experimental. It's like, well,
And that's like run of the mill.
fine. Yeah. Okay, cool.
But I guess, I mean, that is a barrier to a lot of people, even for the sort of old music, is that when you sit down to listen to a symphony, let's say it's Mahler,
Yeah.
what have you got to sort of latch onto?
Well,
You're in there
Resurrection.
blind.
Well,
not all of them
but
have got
I feel
names.
like actually Mahler's kind of a bad example because
Okay.
like
Okay.
like they all have
They don't
like
all have names.
most of them do, don't they? There's like the
Go.
there's like the Earth one, isn't there? No, I was sure. And there's the so 2 is Resurrection, right? The Titan. The Titan is number 1.
That's number 1.
And it's like what something taught me. There's the one that's like what blank taught me. Is that 3?
We'll try and maintain this
Like,
illusion
what
that we
love
know
taught
about
me,
classical music.
What children taught me.
Okay,
right?
awful example.
Yeah.
Brahms.
Yeah.
Actually, for most people's symphonies that haven't got names.
Yeah, that's true. I think every single other one.
all the others that I didn't name. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, symphonic writing is like, and as we said before, purists will say that that's like the important thing
yes.
about symphonies, is that it's just a symphony. But then confusingly, a lot of symphonies are in sonata form and everything's all mixed and meddled and muddled.
You don't get symphonies now, do you? Why is
No,
that?
I haven't heard a new symphony, that's for sure. And there is kind of a narrative that, after Beethoven, who can? Who could?
I mean, that's quite an old narrative.
It is quite an old narrative, but you still hear it.
And
You know, if you leave Beethoven 9, you hear all the audience members go, "Oh, why did anyone try after this?" It's still like you hear
Wagner?
it. Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah, Mahler, exactly. Wouldn't you just die without Mahler? That's from an 80s TV show, isn't it? There's like a pretentious lady, and you can tell that she's pretentious, that she says, "Oh, wouldn't you just die without Mahler?"
I thought it's Ladies Who Lunch from Sometimes Company.
Yes, exactly.
And one from Mahler.
Yeah.
Love it. So
That's my phone.
but that, yeah, exactly. But it's like that's more of like how it's it's just something you go and do to look classy.
Yeah, exactly, and that she's just saying it to prove that she's that she's in the know, and that the other person probably could live without Mahler. You know, that is a possibility for them. But yes, it's something that's fun to say if you're at a Mahler concert. Wouldn't you just die without Mahler, Johnny?
But then, why do people not write symphonies anymore?
It's a really good question, one that I don't have an answer for. I think the symphonic
I've got one word that could was money.
Money, that is true. But there are people with money who could. I mean, people commission operas all the time. People commission oratorios. People commission big choral works that involve a lot of.
They're not abstract.
They aren't, but I should think that there are a lot of people with enough money to commission a symphony out there who love classical music.
Maybe
so
it's
I
also
think
just sounds
that is.
old-fashioned.
I think that there's something that is scary about symphonic form, and also there are probably so many people who would screaming into their lives right now listening to this thinking, I can think of 12 new symphonies that these guys just don't know about. And I'm sorry, please send us your new symphony recommendations. But they're
obviously still being written. But you just don't see them.
No, it's something. It's a very good point, and I think a lot of the newer pieces that I've heard recently are shorter form.
Yes, I mean, it also comes down to I said money. I should think actually why. I mean, I have no interest in writing a symphony.
Really?
And I think, well, to be fair, it's because I sort of prefer the song's theatre style, and it very much, I won't say it goes against that, but it feels like a very old form. And I think the problem is that every time you think of symphonies in the 20th century, like Shostakovich, and Mahler, that really pushed it. So it's like, if you're going to write it, you have to push it. You can't just write a nice symphony like Haydn did. You have to write something that's like, this is a whole new frontier of symphonic writing.
Yeah.
And that's quite a lot to have on one's shoulders.
It's very true. And also I think there's so much about writing a symphony that is really prescriptive, because there are so many rules that you have to comply with.
Yeah.
And how can you be creative about those rules? I think that's exciting though, if you're a new composer and you think about, okay, well, this is how I show that this is a symphony, but how can I be creative with these parameters?
The other thing is that you're only ever going to write something like that to commission.
It's true.
Unless it's a real like passion project.
Yes, I like just in terms of it's hard to spend that amount of time.
It would take you. I mean, it could take people years to write that sort of level of music.
Yeah, but also it takes like extreme talent as well.
Oh yeah, we got past that.
We got past that. Yeah, like you have to be in such a position even in the first place. But I mean, you could be working on a symphony for many years and just writing a little bit a day.
Oh, just like what, a bar a day?
You could and you should.
Well, episode 4.
Yeah, episode 4. If you don't have a symphony.
You're not a composer. You're not a musician.
Yeah, just frankly. Oh, you're a violinist. Good to tell.
Shaming me on my own podcast.
As the person leading your symphony when it's...
You're like, this can't be played.
Yeah, sorry, Johnny. My grade 5 violin is just not... Yeah, it's just not able to cope. Yes, but what do you think is the answer, Johnny, in terms of... people's perceptions of new music? What would you like to see in new music going forwards? What were some of the trends that maybe you're predicting, or maybe that you would like to see going forwards?
Well, people need to stop writing music called reflections. That's one thing. I've heard too much of that. Or parallels, colours. What else is there? Sort of menagerie. I've heard that a few times.
Yeah, definitely. Reflections is a massive one.
No more.
Yes.
Think of how you title your pieces, people. Yeah. But I think the annoying thing is the answer is commission more. But then all the concert promoters will turn around, well, they're not selling.
Yes. And I mean, when you commission something as well, there are so many other things that go into it, right? Where do you perform it? Who do you play it to? You know, do you have the savvy to market it and make people actually come?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Usually, the people that are commissioning these things are usually music festivals or sort of music establishments like opera houses that will have most of that sort of stuff in place.
Built. But then, you know... there are individuals as well, and also, you know, particularly if you are a festival or, you know, an opera company or something like that, there's like a big variety of different ones, right? And so some might be more equipped to do these things than others. Yes,
that's true. But it's also funny when we think about an opera house, I think in sort of 1830, I think in their new season, 90% of the works would have been new music.
Yes.
And maybe one from the last season, or the popular one that people always come and see. And now, today, there's probably one, maybe two. One in the Limbury, one in the main house, the opera house. Yeah. And I think it's just, if you can't, it's all about marketing, but it's also about if people can listen to more new music, they'll be more interested in hearing more new music.
Yeah.
I did have a great point, but I can't remember what it was.
Well, but I wanted to say as well... sorry, do you want to...
No, you talk.
Okay, well, there is a really cool new music festival based in Scotland, and that's the Tectonics Festival.
I've not heard of it.
You've not heard of Tectonics?
Don't say it like that.
It's a really... No, sorry, that's totally not what I meant. But the Tectonics Festival is a new music festival in Scotland that's headed by Ilan Volkov, and it's a really interesting one. And there's kind of a mix of new music, and you can hear something that's very experimental. You do, I think, similar to the Panufnik workshops and something like that, you really do get a sense for kind of threads in new music, and everything's new, and it's in the city halls in Glasgow, but they do take it elsewhere. I think they went to Athens, and they've been all over the place. And I think if you are interested, again, going back to if you're interested in new music, I think it's a good place to start. And from my experience, the audiences do tend to be quite young, and people curious about, I mean, there's the big art school in Glasgow as well, and I think there's a big kind of art scene amongst young people there, and perhaps it is a similar audience who go to the two.
Yeah, and actually, the biggest hurdle is not sort of the premiere performance, it's the second performance. That's the big thing.
Yes, exactly. That is very true. How do you get your claws into somebody's claws?
Because you'll get there's hundreds of thousands of pieces. I mean, the proms are very good. The BBC proms are very good at commissioning new stuff.
It's true,
but it's probably heard at that one prom and then never again. Especially if it's large. There's another problem with large scale. Your commissioning orchestra or whatever may have had the funds to play this, you know, this sort of 80-piece orchestra work, but whoever next That's
Exactly.
that's the hurdle. Second performances
Yes.
are the hardest thing to break through on.
Very interesting and very true. It's something that I hadn't thought about.
Yeah. First recording, but it's like that's where it is. Right, Alex.
Yes.
Well, now we're on to our album of the week. Well, our recommendation of the week. They aren't necessarily new, although the one I've picked at the time of recording came out 2 days ago.
2 days ago. Okay.
However, I think will have been about 3 weeks ago for our listeners.
But that's still excitingly new.
Oh, it's still exciting.
Yeah.
And it's called Mentor.
Mentor.
Yeah, and it's by Orchid Classics, and it's the London Choral Sinfonia, and it's conducted by Michael Waldron. And firstly, the London Choral Sinfonia and Michael, they are brilliant when it comes to sort of championing British music by British composers sort of from the 20th century and today that have sort of slipped by the wayside. They may have been popular in their day, but now just hasn't sort of made it to today.
Okay.
And so a lot of times these recordings are it can be the first recordings of these pieces.
That's interesting.
Which is why it's really interesting.
Yeah.
But Mentor is an interesting sort of combination. So it's called Mentor. So it's pieces by two composers, Benjamin Britten, who we all know and love.
Absolutely.
And his only pupil, Arthur Oldham.
That is so surprising to me that Britain only had one student.
Yes, I don't really know why he just had one. I mean, they weren't even that far apart in age. I think there was only about 13 years between them.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting hearing these sort of two styles. The big Britain piece on there is his work for horn, French horn, tenor, and strings.
Beautiful piece.
I mean, it's such a... he's so good at orchestration and his sort of mixture of the tenor and the horn and with the strings, he just sort of finds so many new sounds and so many new ways of sort of mixing them together. And there's a settings of sort of about 5 or 6 poems just from all throughout time, really. They're not sort of all the same time period.
Yeah.
And again, they're each movement is just really good fun. And and the Oldham stuff on there, which is a lot of choral stuff, or sort of choir, organ, and orchestra.
It's maybe a more familiar sound world.
Yes, I think so. And he sort of lures you in because you sort of think, oh, this sounds quite sort of English hymn book style.
Yes.
And then there's these sort of really like crunchy chords. That
there was some bitonal, when we were listening.
Which is really good. And he always keeps you on your toes. And it was a very refreshing listen. It was sort of... You think it's going to be... You go in to think, oh, I know what this sounds like. And then it's like, oh, no, actually, that was quite different. And the big Oldham piece on there is his Canticle for All Creatures, which I think is a brilliant name.
Beautiful name.
And it's sort of, I think, there's 10 parts to it. And again, like the Britain, he sort of takes these... The organ, the choir, or the singer... and the orchestra, and sort of finds new ways of mixing them together, finding new sounds. Again... very sort of, we know what these things sound like, and then hearing them in this sort of like old wine, new bottles type sort of thing.
Interesting.
And it's just really good fun. It's just a good fun listen. And so, that would be my recommendation.
Looking forward to it.
What have you got for us?
Yes, so my recommendation is, it's also fairly new. It's a fairly new release. I think at the end of 2025, this album came out with Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra and Domingo Hindoyan. And I was thinking about, again, in 3 weeks' time or whenever this comes out, it will no longer be around Easter, but I wanted to pick something that was a little bit of this time of year. And their album is called Iberia. And it's kind of a lot of different impressionistic pieces about Spain and the Iberian coast. And the piece that I wanted to choose from that is... why are you laughing?
I just say that it's because when we do this, I just, talk about the pieces, the album as a whole. You're giving us movements.
Yes, I'm giving you... Johnny, you went through about 12 movements of your piece. Oh my God, you wouldn't shut up about this album.
You won't be here next week because Radio 3 will have talent scouted you. You've had so much practice.
Yes, there we go.
Go on, give
But
the
so
piece.
the movement, the whole point of what I'm saying is about this movement. So the movement is called feria.
Okay.
And the feria de abril is, actually, I'm going to re-say that because that was so embarrassing.
That was awful.
So I'm going to say the feria movement is like the Easter Fair in Seville.
Yes.
And so it's definitely this time of year. Spring has sprung, and it is just such an exciting piece. All different colours of the orchestra, and the way that he conducts them, he brings out such force, and all the intricacies in this piece. There's also a great piano duet version, but this is the full orchestral setting, and I think people will enjoy it.
Very nice. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any comments or questions or any ideas, anything you want us to talk about, message us, email us on Instagram, Facebook, wherever. We're everywhere now. Give us a like, send us to your friends.
Absolutely.
Send us
We
to your mum.
appreciate as well, I think people did give us
Yes.
advice actually from our last podcast episodes and kind of ideas of things to talk about, which was super appreciated. And we
Yes.
are going to try and cover all of them.
Yeah, we will. We will.
Exciting. And yes, we really appreciate everyone who's listened. And
Yes.
please continue to engage.
We've only had the sort of as a time of recording. We only had the first episode out, but there was the response and the views it's been amazing.
It's very true, and people have got to bear with us while we learn.
I should be in focus now.
I hope that Johnny is in focus. If you're watching this, I really, really hope that you can
The
see
picture's
him
in focus, but I am not.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we do wriggle around. That is something that I've learned about us as well. But we're digressing. Anyway, thank you for watching,
Thank you.
and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.